Dollar won is edging up towards the 113 yen mark. It was yesterday around the 114.5 mark. It dropped down to about 112.5 early Asia side. Euro dollar sitting at $1.46.33. This is, however, below the record high for euro dollar of 147.30. Now, this was, of course, sparked by some comments out of the PBOC and also a senior Chinese politician. Let's bring in Stephen Rowles to talk more about this. He's an analyst at CFC Seymour. Stephen, it looks as if there's some comments from China with regards to diversifying their over $1 trillion of forex reserves, and it's got the market in a bit of a panic here. Our question of the day is, how likely will China diversify its forex reserves? And I've got a few questions as well. If so, when? How much? Does it mean selling the existing reserves, or does it just mean not buying anymore? What's your take?
Well, my take on the comments are, I'm not really taking the comments too serious, as looking at his comments earlier this year, he has caused a lot of panic in the markets throughout the whole year. So I really discount a lot of these comments, and I think that it's a buying opportunity. In January, he mentioned that he created a stir in the markets, saying that there's going to be an asset bubble effect in China, and that caused a lot of alarm. And in April, he also said that second quarter GDP is going to come down, and it came up at 11.9%. So I really think what he did is create a buying opportunity for the U.S. dollar. So overall, I think that China may diversify, but where are they going to diversify to? He said that it doesn't necessarily mean euros. So it's a very vague statement, so I'm not putting a lot of weight into the statement at all.
So you suggest that these comments from the senior Chinese politician do not reflect policy at the PBOC or even in Beijing?
Yeah, I think it's still too early to say, and I think it's just more verbal discussion than actual action. So it's too early to say what they're actually planning on doing.
Why do you think it creates a buying opportunity for the US dollar against the euro? Because aren't there so many other negative factors for the US dollar right now, and also the interest rate differential to consider that would actually argue for euro dollar to continue moving higher?
Yeah, that's sort of what everybody's talking about today, and I've been talking about for the past couple of weeks here. But I think that the U.S. dollar has been slightly oversold here, and I think that when you look at the U.S. data, especially the U.S. data that came out last week, the economy is not as slow as a lot of people expected. GDP had phenomenal numbers, the growth rate, huge numbers. So with these aspects, we don't expect the U.S. to head into recession. The housing market, yes, it has been recessionary for the past 6 quarters, but overall the other factors are starting to pick up, such as exports, to help offset some of the concerns about consumption. So I think that the U.S. economy will remain strong, and we'll see a bounce back on the U.S. dollar. Question of when, it might take some time, as the negative sentiments are just so strong right now, but eventually I think that we'll see a bounce back here.
Indeed. What do you think could arise if, after the meeting tonight from the ECB, Trichet sounds a hawkish note? Or do you think there's also the possibility that he could sound caution or a warning about the rise of the euro dollar? How do you think it's going to trade after this meeting?
It could be interesting, as you know, we're hearing concerns out of Europe. Sarkozy yesterday talked about potential trade wars with the U.S., with the U.S. low dollar right now. So, but I think Trichet will focus on the fundamentals, and as everybody expects, we should see it on hold. But the statement, I think, could be a little bit more dovish as well, because we have seen some softer growth numbers, and the ECB tends to be a little bit delayed relative to the States. So I think that eventually, well, we could say hike, but eventually that these hikes will come to a peak soon. So eventually we'll see a reversal here, I think.
Okay, so just very quickly on that point, before we move on to yen, what is your year-end target for euro dollar, all these things taken into account?
Yeah, but with the euro dollar, we see it bouncing back, and for the year-end, we still see it at about 142.
Okay, so lower than where we are right now. Stephen, just very quickly on the yen, which naturally tends to benefit from rising risk aversion, and we're back in the 112s after being at 114.5 just yesterday. And then, you know, you get some bad economic data like the machinery orders today, which reminds us that really there's no need for higher rates. There's probably not even a need for a stronger yen. So which one is going to win out here, risk aversion versus the weak economic side?
I think what will win out will be the fundamentals. I think that today is just a reaction, and that's why we're seeing a bounce back in the the U.S. dollar versus the yen today. So I think that with risk aversion still sort of concerned over last week's news out of the finance markets in the U.S., I think that that'll eventually subside, and I think that eventually fundamentals will come back into play, and the carry trade will continue in Japan throughout 2008 here.
Okay, so that would take you over the course of 2008 in what range for dollar yen?
I think we'll see above 115 for sure.
Stephen, thank you very much for joining us today.
Great,
Stephen Rowles, analyst at CFC Seymour. Well, just ahead, those weaker than expected machinery orders from Japan that I just mentioned, painting a fairly grim picture for the economy. Is a BOJ hike by year-end completely off the cards? We're going to head live to Tokyo for some perspective on that after this.
Left intercept the final bearing 222. 730.
Allianz offers financial solutions for life's important moments.